Wow, what an episode from start to finish. Excellent. You had everything. The tense drama with Boris and Ryu, the tragic backstory of Boris's family, the rest of Yo's friends finally learning that Yo is a descendant of Hao, just everything. I love this episode. But before I dissect the greatness of this episode, please remember to subscribe to join us on our journey to 1,000 subs. I'm Shady, the tribal chief of the Shaman tribe. Now let's dive right into this episode. This episode covers from chapters 95 to 101. I'm not gonna lie, I thought they would finish the mini boss fight with Boris in one episode. But no, it actually ends in a cliffhanger, and I'm so thankful for this, because there is a lot of emotion in this episode, which is mainly displayed by our two main characters of this episode, and that is of course Ryu and Boris. We have Boris's backstory, and we will learn a lot about Ryu and certain techniques that he learns during this fight with Boris. In the manga, this was shown fully, and since this new 2021 Shaman King anime is fully adapting the manga, you can imagine the anime will also show that little flashback as well. It's impossible to fit all of this in one episode. You won't appreciate the philosophy of this fight if all of this information was jammed into one episode, which I'm glad they didn't do. Hopefully this is the start of the anime not finishing mini arcs in one episode, and we can actually have them divided into 2 episodes. There's no rush, you can drag it out all you want in my opinion. The classic Shaman King humor was back, and I couldn't stop laughing when Horo said that the guy with the moustache and the pullback hair looked more like Dracula than Boris himself, or when Tokagero tries to run away when he thought that Boris was actually a monster. This is Shaman King to a T. Philosophical battles mixed with light-hearted humor. That's Shaman King, and we got that in this episode. Boris is also one of my favorite villains in this series. He is easily one of the most memorable minions amongst Hao's crew. He's so over the top and dramatic, very flamboyant in his approach. His family were basically blacklisted and hunted down for apparently being vampires, but with Hao's help, as we saw in the flashback, in the most ironic twists of fate, the very thing that killed Boris's family, he is attempting to become that and end the human race once and for all. Even in the original anime, the episode with Boris was always so fascinating, and he had a Halloween slasher movie type feel to it in the original, with Yo and his team being attacked in the cinema and were essentially trapped in the cinema. He had an element of mystery as well, as we saw characters such as Horo being legitimately possessed for a good while in the episodes, with Boris fooling them into believing that they have actually become vampires. In contrast to this episode, as well as the manga, they're fighting Boris in broad daylight. The episode doesn't have that mystery feel to it. The original had us feeling more sorry for Boris compared to this episode, as we saw in the flashback in the original, himself, his mum and dad were being chased by the vampire hunters, and his parents sacrificed themselves in order to let Boris live. You fell for Boris a lot more. However, here in this episode, it's all about Ryu, and he was the main man in this episode. When Boris killed one of his fellow comrades, that triggered Ryu. He wanted blood, and not the way Boris takes blood. Did you hear the music when he declared that he will be the one to fight Boris? That was epic. It made him feel like a rock star, finally getting on stage ready for the main event. And now we get to the meat of the episode, which is Ryu versus Boris. This fight again is a lot deeper than you think. We are not just seeing 2 philosophies clashing between Ryu and Boris. We are also seeing a battle between Yo's character and Hao's character. Even though Hao wasn't in this episode, Boris killed one of his comrades in cold blood without any remorse. Even the other guys in the crew didn't have any reaction whatsoever when Boris killed him. It makes sense why this would piss off Ryu the most out of everyone. Ryu's main thing is loyalty. Yes, he talks about finding the best place, but this best place he speaks of, he just doesn't want that for himself. He wants it for him and his friends. Right at the start of the series, Ryu was searching for his best place. His crew went from the graveyard to the burnt Chinese restaurant to the bowling alley where Tokagero possessed Ryu. In all 3 locations, he never once stated that this place is his alone. He wanted his boys to be there with him together. He just wants a place to call home for guys like himself, and his friends can find a place to stay instead of being labeled as thugs, which is what the whole town was calling them. But even despite that, he was still searching for the best place with them. He receives a card from his crew and starts crying. That's how much his friends mean to him. They're more like family for him. And to see someone kill their own teammate without any hesitation, that got to Ryu deeply. For him, this is the ultimate sin. In contrast, you have Boris, whose family have been hunted down for generations by everyone. And so naturally, this would make him hate all people, which is the reason why he can kill in cold blood, even if it's his own friend. His family history has made him cold, and when you add Hao to the mix, who has a similar hatred for humans, this will only make Boris more cruel. Ryu says to Boris, if you give up and choose the path of destruction, you will never build anything worthwhile, which is essentially revenge. He is probably referencing Tokagero when he said this. Tokagero was consumed with rage, which got him down to a path of destruction. But when he finally moved on and actually made a friend in Ryu, he has become a powerful spirit ally. That is probably what Ryu is referencing, in my opinion. Like I mentioned earlier, this episode also has a battle of Yo and Hao's character. We have Hao's team who do not show any emotion or empathy when their teammate gets killed, whilst you also have a revenge-seeking shaman wanting to kill all of mankind, leading the attack against Yo's team. The very embodiment of Hao's character and philosophy. He was up against Ryu, the guy that always puts his friends before him, and the guy who will also show empathy to a villain. Case in point, this very episode, when an enemy was killed by Boris, he showed empathy, questioning them. Why don't they feel remorse? Ryu is the embodiment of Yo's character and philosophy, and he had both of them duke it out in this episode to see who is right and who is wrong between Yo and Hao. This is what I mean about Shaman King. It's a lot more deeper than you think. When you read between the lines, there's a lot going on, and that is down to the genius of Hiroyuki Take. Awesome episode. I loved it. I can't wait to see how the next episode concludes this fight between Ryu and Boris. The animation was good and the music is just exceptional, especially after when Yo hints at the plan to the others and they all realize what was Yo's plan. When Horo, Ren and Ryu started attacking, that's when the music made that scene feel more grand. It made Yo's friends feel like a big deal. You actually feel that they are on par with Hao's minions in this very scene, thanks to the music being played. Amazing. I loved it. Thank you for watching this review. Please let me know your thoughts of this episode down in the comments. And like I always say, subscribe to the Shaman Tribe.